This toilet costs more than your car, maybe more than your motorcycle, maybe more than both of them combined. And the question nobody asks is, who makes this? Where does it come from? Who are the people that wake up early, clock in, and spend their entire day making a product that ends up in a bathroom worth more than most people's entire apartment buildings? Today, we're going inside an American factory that very few people know exists. A factory with no commercials, no tourist lines out front, no glamour whatsoever on the outside. But inside, it produces some of the most expensive and exclusive pieces in the American luxury bathroom market. And I promise you one thing, you are not going to expect what you're about to see. Before we walk inside, let me give you a sense of the scale of what we're talking about. In the United States, there is an entire market dedicated to the perfect bathroom. We're not talking about basic comfort. We're talking about functional art. There are toilets with integrated seat heating, automatic self-cleaning systems, electronic odor control, sensor-activated opening and closing, built-in Bluetooth speakers, and exterior finishes in 24-karat gold. There are models with lids hand-carved from imported Japanese hardwood, models with porcelain so thin it's nearly translucent, models made completely to order with the client's initials engraved into the base. The most recognizable brands dominating the mass American market are Kohler, American Standard, and the Japanese manufacturer Toto. But there is a niche above that niche, a segment where the price starts at $3,000 and can easily reach $30,000, $40,000 per piece. That's where the small artisan factories come in, and that's exactly one of those factories we're visiting today. The luxury bathroom market in the United States moves over $1.2 billion per year, and the vast majority of that money doesn't go to robots, doesn't go to automated assembly lines, doesn't go to cutting-edge technology. It goes to workers, people who show up early, put on an apron, and spend their day working with clay, with glaze, with fire, and with their own two hands. But here is the paradox that nobody talks about. These absurdly expensive products, destined for mansions in Beverly Hills, penthouses in Manhattan, and ranches in Texas, are made by hand, by ordinary people who earn working-class wages in factories that look like they belong to another century. And it is exactly that contrast that makes this story so fascinating. The factory is located in the American Midwest, a region that was once the industrial heart of the United States and that today lives with the weight of decades of deindustrialization. The exterior of the building impresses nobody. Old brick walls, barred windows, a simple metal sign with the company name, modest cars in the parking lot, nothing that would suggest that from inside this building come products sold to the wealthiest addresses in the country. This is it. This is the factory. No glass, no mirrored steel, no design architecture. A plain warehouse on a street you would never search for on Google Maps. But inside these walls, around 200 workers arrive every day at 6 in the morning to manufacture pieces that will end up in homes valued at $30 million. The first thing that hits you when you walk in is the heat. The kilns where the porcelain is fired reach over 1,200 degrees Celsius. That's more than 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That heat spreads across the entire floor. It's hot in summer, it's hot in winter. The floor is bare concrete, the shelves are rusted metal packed with molds and tools. The noise is constant. Machines, metal carts being dragged across the floor, industrial fans fighting the heat. And yet these workers do this every single day with a level of precision that very few robots can match.
Everything starts with clay. Not just any clay, a specific blend of kaolin, feldspar, and silica that, once processed and fired at extreme temperatures, transforms into vitrified porcelain. It is this precise composition that gives the finished product that smooth, dense, and nearly translucent surface that luxury clients are paying serious money to own. Get the blend wrong, and the piece can crack in the kiln, come out porous, lose its gloss, or simply fail under regular use. The blend is made in large industrial tanks that look like oversized cement mixers. The clay is combined with water and carefully measured additives until it becomes a thick, uniform liquid called slip. This slip is then poured into plaster molds. The plaster, being a porous material, draws the moisture out of the slip and slowly solidifies the clay into the shape of the mold over the course of several hours. For simpler pieces, the process takes around 4 hours. For a luxury toilet with a complex design and elaborate curves, it can take up to 8. The plaster molds are made by hand and last an average of just 50 uses before they have to be discarded because they gradually lose their ability to absorb moisture properly. For luxury pieces with an exclusive custom design, there is only one mold per model. If that mold breaks or deteriorates, weeks of work are lost while a new one is made from scratch. When the piece is removed from the mold, it is still raw, fragile, and covered in imperfections. It looks like plaster, it feels like it would shatter with the wrong touch. This stage is called greenware, not because it's green, but because it hasn't been fired yet, hasn't hardened into its final form. This is where one of the most important and most labor-intensive parts of the entire process takes place: hand finishing. Workers sit at long benches with the raw piece in front of them and run a damp sponge across every surface, smoothing lines, eliminating imperfections, correcting edges, evening out curves. They use simple metal tools to scrape where too much material built up, to reinforce where it's lacking. It is meticulous, quiet work that demands complete concentration. And here is one of the industry's biggest open secrets. No machine does this as well as an experienced human hand. Robots can do a great deal in the ceramics industry, but the fine touch of someone who knows clay, who knows exactly the right pressure, who feels with their fingertips an irregularity that a camera can't detect, that has not been replaced by technology. Not successfully, anyway. There is a woman who works on this factory floor who is 58 years old and has been here for 24 years. Over the course of her career, she has hand-finished more than 40,000 pieces. She doesn't know who they went to. She doesn't know the names of the owners. She will never see the homes where those toilets were installed. But it is very likely that some of those pieces are right now in mansions in Hollywood, apartments in New York City, luxury resorts in Hawaii. After finishing, the piece goes into the kiln for the first time. This first firing is called the bisque firing. The temperature reaches around 900 degrees Celsius, roughly 1650 degrees Fahrenheit. The piece loses all remaining moisture, hardens, but remains porous. And something important happens at this stage that most people never think about. The piece shrinks. During firing, it reduces in size by up to 12%. That means every single mold has to be engineered with that shrinkage built into its dimensions, otherwise the finished product comes out the wrong size. After the bisque comes the glazing. The glaze is what gives the toilet that brilliant, smooth, impenetrable finish. For standard production pieces, glaze is applied by machines that coat the surface quickly and evenly. But for luxury models, this step is done entirely by hand, using a spray gun, building up the coating in layers calculated down to the millimeter. Too much glaze and the piece runs, forming drips and streaks that ruin the surface. Too little and the finish comes out dull, uneven, without that deep gloss the client paid for. It is a skill that takes years to master. Decades, really. When the piece comes out of the kiln for the second time, it already looks like a finished product, but there is still significant work ahead. The next stage is quality control inspection, and it is done in a way that might surprise you. By hand, by eye, and by ear. The inspector picks up the piece and examines it centimeter by centimeter under a powerful directional light. They're looking for microscopic cracks that only appear after firing, looking for air bubbles trapped inside the porcelain that can cause fractures over time, looking for imperfections in the glaze, for color variations, for anything that isn't absolutely right. And then they tap the piece lightly with a metal instrument and listen to the sound it produces. An intact piece rings clean, like a bell. A piece with micro fissures produces a dull, different sound. It is almost impossible to describe in words, but for someone who has done this for years, the difference is immediate. For luxury models, the rejection rate can reach 20%. 1 in every 5 pieces is discarded or downgraded. In mass production, that number would be unacceptable, but in the luxury segment, it is considered normal, even necessary. The client paying $10,000 for a toilet does not accept any compromise on quality. And here we arrive at what, at least for me, is the most striking part of all of this. The worker who spends 8 hours a day smoothing the surface of this toilet with her own hands earns an average of $18 an hour. That's a livable wage by the standards of the region where the factory is located, but it is far from any real financial comfort. She probably rents her apartment, probably drives an older car, probably will never step inside a bathroom where one of the toilets she made is installed. The client who buys that same toilet spent on that single piece the equivalent of more than a full year of her salary. Not a full bathroom, not a renovation, one piece, one toilet.
and that toilet will sit in a room that is probably larger than her entire apartment. But this is not a simple story of exploitation. The factory employs 200 people in a region that doesn't have many options. The workers have health insurance, paid vacation. Some have been there for over 20 years. It is honest work. It is skilled work. It is work that very few people in the world know how to do at this level of quality. The paradox is this. The most refined luxury, the product that symbolizes wealth and exclusivity, is born in the hands of ordinary people, in a hot warehouse with a concrete floor, with rusted metal shelves. And that doesn't diminish the product. In fact, it is part of what makes it valuable. Because at the end of the day, what the millionaire is buying is not just porcelain and glaze. They are buying decades of accumulated skill in the hands of someone they will never meet. If you made it this far, you now know something that most people will never stop to think about. Behind every luxury object, behind every symbol of wealth, there is a chain of human labor that rarely shows up in the Instagram photo or the magazine feature. There is sweat, there is heat, there is repetition, there is skill built up over years and years. The next time you see one of those insane houses on an American reality show with the bathroom that looks like a sculpture, remember this video. Remember the 58-year-old woman in the Midwest warehouse with a sponge in her hand, smoothing a curve she knows has to be perfect, even though she'll never know where it's going. If this video made you think, hit the like button. If you know someone who would appreciate this kind of story, send it to them. And if you want to see more videos about how things are actually made, behind the scenes, far from the glamour, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.